CCTV footage of the deadly landslides that struck the Mundakkai and Chooralmala regions in Meppadi panchayat on July 30th reveals the extent of the devastation experienced by the local residents. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the visual of that horrific incident. The visuals capture the intense rush of water that inundated residential areas on that fateful night. The landslides that killed hundreds of people in Kerala's Wayanad were triggered by heavy rainfall that was made about 10% heavier by human-caused climate change, as per what the studies have found. With that, joining me on the broadcast is my colleague, Varghese Ibrahim. Let's cut across to him and understand this in greater detail. Varghese, a very good morning to you. Very firstly, this CCTV footage helps us understand the extent of this horrifying tragedy, the national tragedy, the disaster, in fact, the national disaster that struck this particular region. Help us understand this CCTV footage and give us some more details about what this reveals.
Well, these CCTV footages were in fact sourced from certain buildings in that area, and what people say is that from the CCTV footage, it just showed that most of them did not have even the time to react to what was happening. Some of them who felt that they were secured inside their buildings, the kind of trouble that in fact is quite evident. Some of them did not have even moments to escape as well. It was a sudden rush of water and then followed by a landslide that resulted in the heavy damages that we see. It is not only one CCTV footage. There have been several CCTV footages that are coming out to light. One from a church premises as well in the area, which showed partially how the church was in fact destroyed. The CCTV in fact captures the debris slush rushing in down with the force of concrete and pulverizing the walls of the buildings there and washing away the houses as well. So this shows the entire factor of the apocalypse that technically happened in Wayanad. The government has in fact now trying to in fact go for a rebuilding exercise, but the questions have been raised is that whether there should be some kind of rebuilding exercise in that area given the sensitive nature of that area as well. It has been said that reports have been coming in that the rain that was that occurred on that fateful day in Wayanad was at least 10 times heavier, and that was because of climate change that resulted in such situations. But these CCTV footages are in fact doing the rounds to the point that in fact show that it has been a huge disaster that the people over there faced. That most of them did not even have a chance to escape from what was in fact happening.
Absolutely, one can understand the very suddenness with which this particular disaster struck that region, as well as the fact that definitely this is not the kind of place which might be inhabited by humans, given that it's an extremely risky terrain. Could you help us understand that in a greater depth, Varghese? We'll try and re-establish that connection with Varghese in a short time, but this is the extent of the damage and disaster and destruction that had taken place on that night, July 30th, when the multiple landslides, remember, had struck in the Meppadi area. This is in fact Chooralmala and Mundakkai regions, where we can see how the water just rushes through it, gushes in a sudden manner, wiping off everything in that particular house. This is in fact just the footage from one given house. Now remember, there was an entire village of people staying in these areas that these landslides in fact hit, which shows the kind of disaster that was brought upon all these people, which in fact claimed the lives of hundreds of people missing. And this was the extent of this tragedy that has in fact taken place in Wayanad in Kerala.